I've studied Anki every single day for the past 1,083 days. That's like 2 weeks shy of 2 whole years. 3 whole years. I know that I have a knack for consistency, I recognize that, but I don't think that my talent is in consistency, it's actually in other things that contribute to my consistency. And so I want to talk about those things that can help you to become more consistent with Anki, or actually whatever it comes to, really. And if you want, reach a 1,000-day streak. The first thing is something I started doing basically from day one, and that's making sure that Anki looks and feels nice to use. When you first download Anki, it's pretty ugly, but you can change it. Tons of people have shared free Anki decks or resources to make your cards look prettier. You can even download the refilled Anki deck styles if you want. Those are in the link below, and you can change all of your existing cards over to that to make them feel a bit nicer to use. Making sure that the text is a nice size, that it's colors that you like, and generally feels like a finished product can make it a lot nicer to use. But aesthetics aren't everything. How it sounds is also really important. I remember like 6 years ago when I downloaded an Anki deck from Anki Web, and it had some of the worst just robotic voice audio that physically hurt my ears to listen to. I did not go much further with that deck because I couldn't stand to use it. If I needed to use Anki for like a week or two, I could put up with it being ugly and not sounding great, but if you're talking about something that you're going to use for literal years, it should look and feel pretty nice. User experience and user interfaces are a whole area of design for this reason. So if you want to have a nice Anki streak, definitely take your time to plan out your cards and do a little bit of work. On the audio front, you can just remove all of the audio you don't like, or find good sources that have audio. In my recent sentence mining video, toward the end, I go over some ways to add some nice text-to-speech audio to your cards if you want to do that. And that actually brings me over to my next point. Be picky about the cards that you study. You have two general options: pre-made cards or cards that you make yourself, which is what we call sentence mining, which you can also find a tutorial for in that same video that I just mentioned. Sentence mining can be absolutely fantastic, but it's not always the best option depending on your level and the kind of person that you are. Beginners, for example, really benefit from having decks that are quality and made well and have good audio and that sort of thing. Those are the kinds of decks that we make and sell on our website if you're interested, but there are plenty of options that you can find for free. Many of our community members have put in a bunch of time to make totally free decks that are really good quality. And there are definitely some diamonds in the rough on things like Anki Web or other sites. Definitely ask around in the community for your specific language to find the best options that are out there. But once you get into the intermediate or more advanced phases, you probably want to make your own cards. The act of sentence mining or making your own cards means that they're easier to remember because you made them, and that's a good thing. It also means that they're more relevant to what you're learning because you made them from what you're learning with. And that also makes them easier to remember, which is also a good thing. Of the nearly 5,000 cards that I have, only 1,000 of them weren't made by me. The rest of them I sentence mined through my content that I was learning with. Being picky about your cards also means that you should remove, delete, or suspend anything that isn't working for you. A phrase that Clayton likes is, "Words aren't rare Pokemon." You're going to come across these words again in your immersion and learn them regardless. But if a card is giving you trouble, get rid of it. It's that card that's the problem, not you, not the word. So when you know something really well or something's just not sticking, delete it, remove it. Or if you just don't like the card, kill it, I don't care. Focus on the things that are actually improving your abilities. Anki is a guide to help keep things fresh in your mind, it's not teaching you the language. Removing a card is not a bad thing, it's actually just freeing up your time for more of the activities that really do push you forward. Talking about deleting cards actually brings me nicely to my next point. Don't do too much. Like I said, I've done almost 5,000 cards in over 1,000 days, which is an average of less than 5 cards per day. And that's okay. More Anki cards doesn't mean that you know more words or are a better language learner. Anki is just a tool to help you with your learning from immersion. Trying to jam 15, 20, 30 cards per day might be okay for a few days, but it's not a sustainable way of learning. Doing that many Anki cards is like trying to sprint through a marathon. Unless you're one of the most talented, amazing sprinters and marathon runners in the world, you're going to crumple very, very quickly. When it comes to Anki and language learning in general, slow and steady really does win the race. If you want to reach your goals and reach 1,000 days of Anki, you have to go at a pace that is working for you every single day of the year when you're at your best and when you're at your worst. So, an average of 5 cards per day over 1,000 days is great. My next tip is to find where and when and with what you're going to do your Anki every single day. Choosing a time, a device, and a place to do your Anki removes all of those factors as decisions. It makes it so much easier just to do Anki or to do something if you have a place and time to do it. It's a lot like waking up and just immediately going to brush your teeth. You don't forget to brush your teeth because you know when and where you do it every single day. Maybe you turn Anki into something that you do over your morning coffee or in the 15 minutes before you go to work or something like that. Whatever and wherever works for you. The device that you do it on is also important so that you always have your Anki ready to go. You don't literally always have to do this for 1,000 days. Like, we move around, we go places, there's things that happen. But for at least 6 to 8 weeks, trying to focus on this one place really helps build that habit. When 98% of something happens in one place, that final 2% is really easy to fill in because you know that it's missing. When I'm not at home, it's not hard to remember to do Anki because it's something that I do every day, even though I'm not at my exact spot. But I still almost always do it first thing in the morning here at my computer. Okay, and that brings me to my last tip, which is probably the weirdest one. Don't focus on getting a big streak. Streaks come from strong habits and dedication, but actually having a streak as a goal is a terrible idea. A lot of emphasis is placed on streaks. Pretty much every app under the sun has a streak counter, and that's like the main focus. Streaks can feel really good when they're going great, but they feel miserable when they break or when they fail. You might have experienced this yourself. Have you ever had a streak of 5, 10, 15 days and you feel really good, but then something comes in and you lose that streak entirely, which makes you feel terrible, and you just don't keep going with it afterwards. You have a streak of 1, 2, 5, 10 days where you don't go back to that thing. That's what happens when streaks are the only thing that's holding together your habit. People with large streaks in really anything aren't really focused on the streak, they're focused on the thing. And that's why we use the concept of hit rate. Hit rate is actually really simple. It's the percentage of days that you've achieved your goal in a certain time frame. We use 6 weeks. So, how many days of the past 42 days have you achieved your goal? That's your hit rate. Hit rates are great because you can always save them. If you miss a day, that's fine. You can still keep your hit rate high. Because there's not really a huge difference between learning for 10 days in a row and learning for 4 days, taking a break, and then learning for 5 days. Those are almost equivalent, but a streak would be broken and a hit rate would stay at 90%. And we've built in hit rates to the Refold app that we're currently developing. If you're watching this video in August 2024, it's still in heavy development, but you can get on the wait list now by clicking the link in the description. We've waited for years to build any kind of app, despite it being the thing that everyone does, because we didn't know what we wanted to do yet. But we see that there's a real need for good, strong language learning habit development, and that's what we're trying to achieve. So if you're interested in checking out the app and getting early access, or maybe it's already out, check out the link in the description either way, and let's get you building up a hit rate so that you can start building a streak. And then at some point, Anki and language learning becomes such an ingrained thing that you do that you have a 100% hit rate for years. Okay, so those are my tips to get a big streak and kind of whatever. Let's go over them really quickly. First, make things comfortable so that you don't hate doing it. Be picky about the cards that you study. Also, don't do too many, don't overwhelm yourself. Find your Anki time and place. And lastly, don't actually focus on the streak. The ride there is a lot more important. That's all that I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed and maybe you learned a little something. And maybe you send this to a friend or somebody else who's trying to build up an Anki streak. And make sure you click the link in the description to sign up for the waitlist in the Refold app so that you can get access as soon as possible. I'll see you there on the leaderboards. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and as always, happy immersing. I'm here to drop some knowledge, listen up with your ears. I got a language learning method, gonna make it crystal clear.